Hi guys, thanks for joining me and welcome to this week's episode of Saint of the Week. Now, this week's episode is a little bit different, a little bit special, because this week's episode is kind of the reason why I film these videos, the reason why I do Saint of the Week videos. This week's saint is the inspiration behind our Saint of the Week videos. This week's Saint of the Week is you. So every week I try to reflect on the life of a saint and think a little bit about why they're a saint and what we can learn from that. And the reason that I do that is I think it's really, really important for us to know that God calls every single one of us, you and me, to be saints. God's greatest desire is for us to join him in heaven. And if we're in heaven, then we're saints. The saints are in heaven. God desires for us to join him in heaven. And therefore, when we make that journey to heaven, we become saints. And I think sometimes when we think about saints, we think about these people who completed phenomenal tasks and did incredible things. And sometimes we think that sainthood isn't something that we can achieve. But God tells us that we're all called to sainthood. He wants all of us to join him in heaven. Pope Francis affirmed that recently when he said that to be saints is not a privilege for the few, but a vocation for all. A vocation is a calling from God. So Pope Francis is saying that God is calling all of us to sainthood. But how do we do that? Because sometimes, like I said, when we look at the examples of the saints, we see things that we might not think we can achieve. We might see people doing things or living their lives in a way that we can't ever hope to be like. And I think Thomas Merton says it beautifully when he says to be a saint is to be yourself. You're not called to be someone else. You're called to be you. God has given you your own wonderful set of gifts and talents, of skills, of things that make you uniquely you. And he has set before you a path. There is a plan for you. God has prepared a way for you. And that way ultimately leads to heaven. And that path is only possible if we're true to ourselves, if we're true to the person that God made us to be, if we're proud of our gifts and talents and use them for the betterment of the world, if we look at ourselves as that is who God made me to be, and I'm going to go out and change the world with that. Because that's what saints are. They're people who are fully alive. They're fully themselves. They're fully aware of what God has given them, and they go out and use that in the world. And every year, people start the year by making New Year's resolutions. And maybe you've done that. Maybe you've decided that you want to read more, you want to exercise more, you want to give more to charity. All of these things, they're wonderful. But I think the most important thing we can do at the start of the year is to remember and recognize that God has called us to be saints. Wouldn't it be amazing if one day in the future there was a church named after you? Or there were children going to your primary school? Not the primary school you went to, but the primary school named after you. And wouldn't it be amazing if one day in the future there was someone making a video about you and about how you became a saint? So this year, maybe your New Year's resolution needs to be, I want to be a saint. I want to be a saint. I want to be the person that God made me to be, and I want to begin that journey to heaven. Because the great thing is, it doesn't matter how far you feel from that path, how far you feel from God, he's waiting for you. Because that's his plan. He wants you to go to heaven, and he's willing to wait, and he's willing to love you so much that you end up on that path, journeying to heaven and being called a saint. So that's why we make these videos, so that we can learn from the example of the saints and recognize that we ourselves are called to sainthood. We ourselves are called to be saints. And I hope that this week you know that, and that you put that into your life, and that you plan your life so that you can become saints, because that's what God desires. So I hope you have a great week. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.